this episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast, we talk about Bishop Bullwinkle, our Black Mirror Season 3 review, and our special guest, Josh Brahm with the Equal Rights Institute. All that and more on this episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast, where it's two guys' take on life, liberty, and the pursuit of gravy, and you, the listener, are getting a degree in common sense. We are broadcasting from the Busted Nuckle studio right here in beautiful downtown historic Concord, North Carolina. I'll be your host, Biggin, and how about you? We've got a great show lined up for you, as always. But before we begin, let me introduce you to the second half of this flaky biscuit. That's right, I'm talking about the pride of Anderson, South Carolina. But most of you probably know him best as the Silver Tongue won 2016's Honorable Mention Motorcycle Salesman of the Year, the inventor of the Redneck Egg Roll. Give it up on old mic number one. It's Mojo!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, genders of all ages, you're listening to the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. We appreciate you listening as you do every week. We appreciate you sharing those episodes. You can go to our website at southernfriedphilosophy.com. You all right over there?
I'm good, buddy.
All right.
Your music didn't start.
That's all right. Fault. Go to Facebook at Southern Fried Philosophy. That's where we like to post some memes every once in a while in our episodes and interact with our guests or interact with our friends, followers, yeah, whatever you want to call those. Anyway, we appreciate you. If you go to there, go to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, pretty much anywhere that you find you listen to a podcast, you can find us there.
That's right.
Just give us a like, a subscribe, a heart, a star, whatever symbol they use that you can actually means you can get our episodes every week. Download it into your podcast queue.
Yeah.
Just go there. That way you can get us every week. We usually dump on Mondays.
Careful.
And also upload our episodes on Mondays.
Usually it's twice a day for me. I'm just a regular at that.
Yeah, I can set my clock by mine. But anyway, you can go find those. Make sure you share those. Give us a review. That is the most important thing. I don't care what you're doing. Go to your iTunes, especially.
Yeah,
iTunes.
Please.
iTunes is nuts. Just go to write a review. All you got to say is, I like. Pretty simple.
Even just like
five letters.
Yeah.
If 6, if you want to include the space character.
Right. Okay.
There you go. I like 5 stars.
There you go.
Or 1 star, and I like
whatever.
That works for me too. Anyway, just do that, and yeah, that's how we move up in the old podcast algorithm, and that way more people find us. So anyway, I appreciate all the new listeners. I mean, seeing the metrics with the new listeners is kind of exciting.
Oh yeah, no doubt. We've got some new listeners from Tony, Alabama, Nesbitt, Mississippi, and how do you say the Koontz, Tennessee? Counts. I got to be careful.
Look, I'm from Moonshine Country in Tennessee.
Yeah, so how do you say that?
No clue.
No clue. Counts, Koontz, whatever.
There's a town in North Carolina called Fuquay.
Okay.
Verena.
Fuquay, Verena. Yeah.
Fuquay. So I mean, that's the thing.
Fuquay.
So Fuqay space Varina.
There you go. And that is our resident McFly talking on old mic number 4.
I know that because we used to play them in football in high school.
Oh, really? So, I mean, that name, anyway, there's names here in North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama that you
have no idea.
You throw a dart, hopefully you hit the dartboard.
Yeah.
Just kind of mumble through it. Just kind of chew on your tongue as you say it.
That's how my dad is with Albemarle. I'm just like, just start with and just go, yeah. Let's do that. Hey, we want to say thank you again to all of our news listeners. And if you want to be part of the SFP family, we ask that you go to our website, southernfriedphilosophy.com, and you click on that Patreon link so you can be part of the Southern Fried Philosophy family. You can donate $5, $15, or $20. That would be helpful. We're going to need that money to get some new microphones. We're going to move to a new studio, all that fun stuff.
2021 Scotch whiskey tour.
Wouldn't necessarily go for that. But we can try. But we would really love some support. Again, it is free to you, but it is not free to us. And so that we can give you all 104 episodes free. We don't charge for that, at least as of right now. But, we need some financial help to pay the bills. So we would appreciate that.
Yeah, the home office just messaged us today and said this episode is free. Also,
yeah, just this episode,
and
the other 104.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, maybe the next one.
There you go. I'm going to ask you like I ask you every week, Mojo. How you be doing?
This is an odd climate season.
You're going to be the guy that complains about
No, I don't complain. I don't because I tell you, I mean it's the seasons, right? You expect it, but man, this summer's been kind of wacky. We had 90 plus degree heat here in the South last week, which 90 degrees here in the South is a little different because we have the humidity added on top of it.
Sure. That feels like 9,000.
Yeah. I mean, but you have the heat, but you wear the heat. You know, it's one of those things you take a shower, you throw on your high karate, Stetson cologne and your speed stick and you go outside and then you got to take another shower. That's
how it was in Kentucky. It was so humid. Like once I started sweating, it was like 30 minutes before I could stop. It was just
so it's crazy. We went from 90 degrees to I think a couple of days it was like 70, 75.
Yeah, it's Saturday at my place with like 82 with
Yeah.
no humidity. I sat outside all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed the mosquitoes.
Yeah.
We just hung out. I mean, it was awesome.
There you go.
So, I mean, but it's been weird because I think last June, the previous couple of Junes, it has been just like, foot from the sun or hell, one of the two.
Right.
I mean,
It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming. It's on its way.
It's going to be one of those years, ain't it?
Yeah, it
Where
will be.
solar flares directly into our eyeballs. How you doing?
There you go. Good. We are at a precarious place at the Biggin household. We are getting ready to go on a 9-day vacation, and my wife and mine, our backs are against the wall on deadlines for work. Have you ever tried to lead a conference call and pack at the same time?
I can't say I have because I basically have been unemployed since I was 22. So
it is a pain in the arse.
I can imagine.
Man, just trying to get all this stuff done. And we're recording on Wednesday night. I've still got to go home and basically put in a full day's work and pack and get ready to go. We are supposed to be leaving tomorrow, which I will inevitably be working tomorrow, and then 4 days of that 9-day vacation.
Now, where are you guys going again?
We are going to Kentucky for a wedding, and then we are spending 3 days in Chicago. This is
Deep dish pizza.
This is the penance that I paid for not taking my wife to Hamilton while it was here in Charlotte. Now I have to drive all the way to Chicago to go see Hamilton there.
To Chirac.
Yeah, to enjoy that fine play.
That's awesome.
I appreciate that.
Congratulations. Husband of the year.
Well, she's actually...
Well, I am... Okay. Any men out there listening and women, if you have husbands, or boyfriends, just go ahead and turn this down because I don't want to relay the private information. Right. So anyway, I'll give a 5-second delay. All right. So men out there, my husband advice of 22 years now, what you do is the first couple of bags you just absolutely destroy as far as packing.
Yeah.
Leave stuff out. Sure. Mess it all up like toothpaste on clothes, and then your wife will get, or girlfriend will get so frustrated.
Forget the underwear.
Yeah, forget her stuff. Like purposely take her stuff out.
Yeah,
pack your stuff.
Honey, I packed your clothes for you. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Oh, that's good strategic.
Hey,
right
where's my bra? Well, I don't know. I put the 2-eye burner in there instead.
You wear one?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was supposed to go in there.
And all of a sudden, you never have to pack again. I have not packed since I was probably 24.
Wow.
18 years, I have not packed a bag.
She's got the vacuum seal packs. She writes the days on what I'm supposed to wear. Wow. It's like granimals for me. I just open up the sealed package and I just go. Wow. That's about it.
That's I thought I had a good. My wife's a teacher, and we always go on vacation during the summer because that's one more person has to take vacation time.
Oh yeah.
So it's like I come home from work. And most of the packing's done because she's been planning it for a week and she's been doing laundry so she can pack it.
Oh no,
that's genius.
My wife stresses out. I kind of just chillax. I make myself busy doing stupid work, like drinking
a beer in front of the TV.
Descaling shower head or something.
Oh, yeah. Or like what I did was I took the car to get the inspection done and the oil changed.
I
nailed it.
Have to go to Cincinnati tomorrow.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. So, I make myself busy just because she'll ask me to assist. Like, hey, I need 12 pairs of underwear. Okay. Well, I guess if I'm gone, I can't help her. So, I mean, she does a phenomenal job.
Nice.
My wife does an awesome job packing for us.
All right. So we'll turn the volume back up. If you were
nudge your lady and tell her she can turn the volume back up.
It's okay to go now. One of the questions that we had from our Ask Us Anything is, what is this redneck egg roll that Lisa asked us about on our Facebook page? For some of our new listeners, we say that you are the inventor of the redneck egg roll. Can you explain what the redneck egg roll is?
Yeah. So anyway, back in the day, a few years back, I used to have a restaurant, and I kind of just as an appetizer, sometimes your most innovative food is done from leftovers. So we used to have kind of a southern steakhouse, and collards was a featured item. So we'd always have some collards left over. So one day, just as a special, I decided to make an egg roll because it was kind of an Asian fusion restaurant with this little southern cuisine, but a little bit of Asian fusion. So one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Fresh Market, grab some egg roll wrappers, and do something with them. So, because I love egg rolls.
Yeah.
Like,
who doesn't like egg roll?
Is like 10 o'clock at night. I mean, it's like Krispy Kreme donuts for me. Like I can literally eat a dozen egg rolls and not think twice.
Wow.
I mean, so anyway, so I go get some egg roll wrappers. I take some leftover collards. We also had black eyed peas and a little bit of pancetta ham. I'd fry the pancetta ham up, put it all inside of an egg roll, roll it up, deep fry it just like an egg roll. And then I didn't have any sauce or duck sauce or anything like that, so I just took some honey and a little bit of Tabasco, mixed it together, and wham bam.
Ooh.
Some good eating.
Yeah.
And I see now, since I don't do the restaurant stuff anymore just because I'm too lazy. Anytime after Thanksgiving or any holiday where, here in the South where we have collards, all my friends now expect redneck egg rolls. So I'll take usually people will bring me their leftover collards and we'll just make a big ass batch of redneck egg rolls for everybody. So it's, just something different.
So something to look forward to this holiday season.
Just bring over your collards.
Collards and black eyed peas.
So you do pancetta or country ham, just one or two, and just fry it up. And it's good stuff.
I haven't had dinner yet. You're really messing with me. Right
the problem is by the time we finish this, we're not going to be able to eat free pizza at Red Hill.
That's right.
They may have been out when I came.
I don't doubt.
Here's the deal, though. We have been friends for 4 years now. I have yet to have one of these redneck egg rolls. Just FYI. I'm just saying. So we're not.
All right.
Just saying.
Challenge accepted.
All right, let's go into some wacky news brought to you by Webmerized. If you need a clean, crisp website, go check out our friends at Webmerized.com. That's Webmerized.com. We didn't see a whole lot that jumped out at us for our wacky news, but one thing that you did bring up, Mojo, is that Bishop Bullwinkle has passed away.
Man, what an icon in the meme community.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if he's probably best known for his music,
right?
Or known for his memes. So we'll share a little bit here
of his. Yeah. So this is the Bishop Bullwinkle, Hell to the Na with the bicycle. That is the name of the YouTube video, and so here we go. Come on, Bishop. I love the dog that's on here. He just gets lost in the back. Come on.
Listen, let it go. My name Bishop Bullwinkle. I got the first church, nothing but the truth. What you say? Deacon Kyle, Deacon George, Deacon Clay. Open up the door and turn them loose. Come on. First, I want to thank God for the blood running warm in my veins.
Why is there a monkey?
Yeah, I thank God for my life, health, and strength. I got
first time I ever seen this guy was when after Harambe. Harambe was shot.
Yeah.
So that was probably the first time I've seen any of the memes with him.
Come on.
Hell no. To the no. Yeah, to the no. Hell to the no. To the no. Listen. Sister Anna, Sister Ruth, make sure everybody get a seat. Come on, y'all. Sister Lily may go back in the kitchen, cause when I get through, I need to eat. Fix me collard greens and cornbread and rice. Chicken breast, oxtails on the side. Deacon Underwood, get my business ready, cause when I get through, I need a ride. Come on! Dr. West, count the money, come back and tell us what you raised. We ain't come on. I got some people there looking for some best. First, God gotta get the praise. Come on, y'all. See, there's an old saying, when the praises go up, you get the blessing coming down. I got some people in the church, God Almighty, look at them, they messing around. Come on. Woo. Hell no. To the no.
It's going to be stuck in your head.
What's that?
This is going to be stuck in your head for the rest of the week.
It always is.
I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. It's going to be in my head.
Come on.
Just put those on your repeats.
I got the preacher with the night prayer.
All I know is I've never seen anyone take a white suit and a cocoa brown shirt and dress with it. With a cowboy hat matching. He's dressed to the nines.
No doubt. If I could get that outfit, I would.
Anyway, rest in peace, Bishop. You will be missed for the song and countless memes that have been provided by the Hell to the No.
Yeah. I can't.
You just can't turn it off.
I can't. I don't want to.
Let me do it for you.
All right, we'll finish this up. To the no. Sing it.
Got kids dropping out of school.
All right.
It's about a 33-minute song, by the way.
It's like 4 minutes.
That ain't a
4.5
song.
minutes.
That ain't a song. That's a sermon.
Yeah.
Let's look at the official time. It is 4 minutes and 51 seconds for the whole
It's
thing.
almost 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah. So,
Do you know it takes a customer 3 seconds to decide whether to stay or leave your website? That's why a crisp, clean, and user-friendly website is one of the best ways to market and help and grow your business. At Webmerized Web Design, we offer that and much more. They pride themselves in offering their clients professional websites at affordable prices. Are you a small business? No problem. We can cater to small businesses by working with their clients every step of the way to meet their needs and expectations. Their number one goal is to partner with their clients to help and grow their business with a successful website. They work for every client, no matter the size. So if you'd like a great website, go to webmerized.com, webmerized.com, or you could check out their link on the sponsors link of our website. If you mention the word Biggin, you'll get 10% off your website design order. Again, webmerized.com. Check them out.
yeah, so that's our wacky news. Rest in peace, Bishop. I'm sure we had some good laughs, and that will be stuck in our head for the rest of the
I can't remember
evening.
what episode it was for Harambe, but
we talked about it.
Yeah, we had him on. We had Bishop Bullwinkle's music on our feature on a couple of our shows.
Yep. All right, so we are going to go into some hot topics brought to you by Watchman Cigars. If you want a fantastic cigar at a cheap price, go check out our friends at Watchman Cigars. That is Watchman Cigars. We'll go ahead and hit our disclaimer for legal reasons. The views and opinions of Southern Fried Philosophy are not necessarily those of our guests, sponsors, or friends of the show, but they should be. All right, so the first topic I wanted to talk about was Black Mirror. It came out. It is a TV show on Netflix. Mm-hmm. It came out with season 3, which was only 3 episodes long. Normally, I think there were 6. And they also,
in their defense, they had a movie.
They put a movie out, and then the 3 episodes that came out. Normally, it's like a sci-fi TV show. For the most part, it feels like it could be 10 years away, and whatever's happening on there could actually be a reality. On this one, it felt like it could happen this season. It felt like it could happen like tomorrow.
Right.
So what did you think about the 3 episode series or season for Black Mirror?
The writer, producer, director, I guess. I know he's a writer. I don't know if he's the producer or director, but Charlie Booker is the guy who does this. It's an English series.
It is, right? We should say that's not
originally
Doctor Who.
Originally, I think it was on the BBC originally.
I think so. Yeah,
but I could be wrong. There's really only 2 companies who own channels, and both are owned by the government there. So, but I think most of the seasons have been a little bit in the future, and it's very bleak and dystopian futures where that's where the English and the English have prevailed as far as dystopian type scenarios. I mean, that's where 1984, the novel, George Orwell, a lot of their series have done that. So I really enjoy that dystopia. I like dystopian. But the new season is definitely kind of in the modern now. And I think with the exception of maybe one of the episodes, but man, I like the shows just because it makes you look at our current, it gives the story narrative, and it makes you look at what we're doing right now or how we're going to go down the road. And I kind of enjoy that just because it's almost it's almost looking back at us. It's almost like a mirror looking back at us, and we're laughing at ourselves for what we're doing because we're driving down this road.
And the name of Black Mirror comes from if you have your cell phone and turned it off, it's like a black mirror looking back at you. So
know that.
Yeah, there you go. So it has a lot of references, most of them dealing with technology and things like that. So
yeah, especially social media technology.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is that.
Yeah.
I think that about sums up. I mean, the Black Mirror had a spinoff movie called Bandersnatch, which was kind of a choose your own adventure movie,
right?
On Netflix.
I don't know why they haven't done more of these. Like,
it was ingenious.
It's fantastic. I love choose, and it's based off of a book that is a choose your own adventure.
Yeah, I think it was. I think you'll probably start to see a lot more of that happen.
I hope so because I liked it. It was seamless.
I wonder what the production cost on something like that is. How much greater it is to do you choose your own adventure because you've got to film these multiple scenarios.
Yeah.
So how much different is it, or how much harder is it to produce that and make it work? I mean, I don't know if you guys remember those books when we were kids.
Yeah.
I love those things.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a shelf full of them. It's like, oh, I died. I'm going to go back and make a different choice.
Yeah.
And, I haven't seen the Bandersnatch. Is that possible? Like, oh, you don't like that outcome?
Yeah. No, that's what it does. I mean, especially if you choose the wrong choice, actually, you can end up perishing. Early on, be like a 15-minute movie. So it gives you an opportunity to go back and relive that choice or straight different. I mean, it's very innovative. Besides that, as far as the cutting and re-scenes and things like that, just imagine Netflix having to develop an algorithm where you have, I don't know how many accounts Netflix has worldwide now. Let's just say they have 300 million accounts worldwide. Imagine, 5% of them logging in, going through that movie and hitting different choices at the same time. That's a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah, no doubt. So season 3, we'll kind of maybe go through the episodes real quick. The first one is dealing with a video game that comes out. Is these kids that started playing the video game, and then they grow up, and now there's an updated version of it, and it's like it's very similar to Mortal Kombat. It's like a Mortal Kombat type video game. These two kids are playing it. Well, now in the future, they can put a little dot on their head and they can actually become those characters, and they could fight each other. It's virtual reality, and you become like that character.
But you also feel the emotions and feel the pain.
Emotions and all that stuff. And where it took a sideways turn that I didn't see coming was once they were fighting, and then one character, which was a female, kissed the male character, and then they had relations. They had hello time. And then the question, though, sparks out is if it was a guy that was playing a guy, is that a homosexual relationship?
But also the sponsor question was an affair.
Wasn't an affair because one of the guys is married. So it's a very, very good question. It's a social morale of what would happen if this really did, and what is it considered? But
also in the show, and I'll spoiler alert.
Yeah,
you can go back and watch it. But anyway, during the show or this episode, these guys were childhood friends, and they had this encounter in the virtual reality world of like I said, sexual relations. And then they posed this question because one of the guys could not drop it, and they became addicted to it. Just like, how you become addicted to social media, you become addicted to video games, apps, whatever. So one of the guys was like, let's just meet up in real life. Let's kiss and see if sparks fly. Well, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But they enjoyed the intimacy in the virtual world. So, and, we talk about the show, how we're philosophical. Number one is that cheating in the virtual world.
I will say two things about that. To me, there are two types of cheating. There's the physical act, then there's the emotional act.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, the emotional act is much more difficult to process and deal with than the actual physical act.
And destructive, too.
Especially for men, because men can compartmentalize a lot of stuff. We can just kind of say, okay, I'll just file that over here and forget about it. It never happened. But emotions are much harder to compartmentalize and do that. So I would, it seems to me like if it's only in the virtual world where they don't have the real world repercussions of a relationship, it's more emotional than it is physical at that point. And that's probably eventually going to be very difficult, especially for the one there seems to be one who's way more into it than the other one.
That's right.
So that's going to be really difficult to process. And at that point, I think it is.
Yeah.
There's an emotional attachment involved there.
Sure.
That's my philosophy on it.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. Emotional affairs are much more difficult to navigate through than the physical. Like you said, guys can just compartmentalize it and walk
but I think both of them are affairs. I think they're just kind of different categories. I mean, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying either one's
no.
right or
I know
wrong.
you're not justified. I'm just saying that I think both of them are affairs.
Yeah. So, and then the second episode, it was dealing with a guy that basically took what we would consider like a person that works at Google. He kidnapped him and drove him basically to a field. His only request as holding him hostage was that he talked to the CEO of Google. It wasn't called Google. It was another company. I can't remember what the name of it was, because he wanted to talk to him because he, while he was driving, had an accident that killed his fiancée, and the accident was caused by him looking down at his phone because he wanted to check Facebook, or he wanted to check whatever social platform it was there. And when he looked down, got in an accident, killed his fiancée, and he wanted to talk to the CEO to be like, this thing, people are becoming addicted to their phones, and I killed my wife because I looked down at my phone. I mean, again, I think that's a real world example of what happens now. People are, number one, addicted to their phones. Number two, accidents do happen by looking down at their phones.
Yeah, I mean, there's whole campaigns now for kids to turn the social media off, and also adults too. I can't tell you how many times, I travel quite a bit. Out of all of us, I probably travel more miles than the three of us. And to see people, reading whole novels on their phones. It's ridiculous.
I drive 40 minutes each way to work every day.
Okay.
And most of it is on 485. I cannot tell you.
So basically you're going 2 miles.
No. I'm just kidding. Well, luckily, the good thing about it is I do go pretty much against the flow. So everybody that's stuck's on the other side, and I'm kind of flying by at 80 waving. But I'm at 80 miles an hour, and I've got people flying by me that have their phone 6 inches from their face, and I don't know if they're checking Facebook or if they're reading a novel or, they're
taking Snapchat.
Taking selfies of themselves.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing, but I mean, it's like every other car. And if I'm doing 80 and they're going by me, they're 85, 90 and half an eye on the road, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because, somebody's going to die.
That's right. Last week on 77. Now, 77 here in Charlotte is a corridor, or the part of 77 I take is from Charlotte to where I go to Mooresville is where the shop is.
Lord.
And 77 is kind of undergoing a transition right now where an independent company has come in and widened 77. Now that widened lane is now a toll lane, which no one takes, but because we're anti-toll here in the South. But the other 2 lanes have just been for consistently since we've been here have been slow. It's a highway, 55, 65 speed zones, and we consistently go 17 and a half. So I'm trying to give you some context here, some audio context that the other day I was traveling between Charlotte and Mooresville, and there was actually a lady doing a pedicure. Had her foot up on the console, painting her finger or her toenails. I kid you not.
Going 17 and a half miles an hour.
Yeah. But still, though,
that's
either like a death wish or talent?
I'm gonna tell you something. I had your Facebook memories pop up. I had one pop up this week, and you talking about that just reminded me. Last year about this time, I'm coming home from work, and there's this dude in a U-Haul, and the U-Haul is towing a car. He's in the left lane doing 55 miles an hour on I-85. It's a 70-mile-an-hour zone.
No.
As I pull up by him, I look over, and he's doing his makeup in a rearview mirror. And I'm like, my caption of that was, I didn't know whether to flip him off, blow him a kiss, or salute him. You know, but he literally was like, the U-Haul, and he just in his brushing. And I was like, you got to be kidding me, man.
Goodness gracious!
But I would want to caption that moment though. Was he just about to get off the highway?
No. He was in the left-hand lane. He was not getting off anywhere. He was just driving.
He's just being prepared.
Yeah.
He's getting ready for when he does arrive.
I was just like,
maybe he's preparing for a state trooper to pull him over doing too slow. He was just prepared. Wow.
But I was just, that stood out to me. Because I memorialized it on social media, so it had to stand out to me.
Sure. It is amazing what people can do while driving.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying that I trust them to do it,
100%,
but it's amazing what people attempt to do while driving. It is, I could have swore during tax season I saw someone filling out their taxes in the car. I kid you not.
So my mother used to be really good at reaching the back seat and stopping me while she was driving.
Sure, yeah, that's good.
The fly swatter, get the fly swatter out.
And don't forget about the safety hand. That was the safety seat belt.
Oh yeah,
Like you're going 80 miles an hour, but your mom's right hand pops up on your chest. You're not going through the windshield at all.
My 5'4", 110-pound mom.
My mom was 4'10", 300, but
That's funny. It does beg the question: should cell phone companies or Google or Facebook or whatever put a block that if you're driving, it turns it off?
Well, they're already blocking voices of dissent. Why not?
But should it be a safety feature on a phone that if you're going, it turns off?
I don't think it would be social media. I think it would be up to the provider of the cell phone. Right. For example, AT&T,
the network would have to do it. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
There's already an app you can do that to your kid's phone. If your phone's traveling more than a certain miles per hour, it'll disable it. Yeah.
I need to figure that out one. I don't know. I don't think so. And it would be something I have to talk through in my own mind on this podcast. I don't think so because I think that blocks individual freedom. Now, where I would have a problem with that is that someone's poor choice of individual freedom affects mine.
Right.
Of right to travel. So that's where I kind of have a little bit of
I'm philosophically kind of like you on that. I think I'm pretty much philosophically opposed to all warning labels. But, if you pull, again, my rights stop where someone else's start. And if my stupid choice impacts somebody else, that's different.
Yeah.
And, that's a tough one for me because I don't think the average person right now is intellectually capable of making a smart decision when it comes to social media or cell phone use.
Yeah.
No, I'm a firm believer in the Darwin fittest of the survival.
Social Darwinism, baby.
Yeah. But that Darwinism could take you out too.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why I have the kind of tug of war mental. I just don't want more government. And that frustrates me.
Sure. And it may be up, say it's up to the carrier to say, hey, Verizon's going to do this and T-Mobile's not. Yeah. And maybe the free market
exactly. I can get with that.
If private companies make the decision, I'm kind of okay with that, I think.
But like you said, you have the choice. He's like Biggin just said, you have the choice to say, AT&T's doing this. Well, I guess I'm going to go to someone else.
But see, the problem with that though is nobody thinks it ever happens to them.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm good enough to drive. I can look at my phone and drive because you're good enough until the time you run up the back end of an 18-wheeler and take your head off,
Yeah.
Well, it's not even in an accident, but it just impedes traffic and your right to be able to use the speed limit, Yeah. So, and to travel at a reasonable speed. So it may not even just be an accident, but just impeding your right to be able to get to
because it's almost impossible to look at your phone and not slow down.
Oh, yeah.
If you take your eyes off the road, your brain automatically
while I'm on cruise control.
Well, and there's been studies that say once you look at the phone, even for a second, your brain will go to an 85-year-old mental capability. And if you're already older,
Like,
I apologize to any 85-year-olds out there listening.
I tell you what would be an interesting study. Who's more impaired? Somebody who's had 4 beers or somebody who's staring at their cell phone while they're driving?
that would be
I'd
good.
love to see that.
And also,
test.
you throw in the wild card who's been smoking the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, well, you know.
I think it'd be,
Or who's got
They're not speeding at least.
hey.
who's got a Whataburger?
That's right there in the
hamburger.
Taco Bell drive-thru or the Whataburger. Speaking of Whataburger, did you just hear they sold?
I did.
Sold
I
to
did. Chicago.
So Whataburger is a well-recognized Texas staple. And they just sold to a private equity firm in Chicago. Have you ever had a Whataburger, Marty?
I have. They're okay.
I think they're quite delicious myself.
Here's where I fall down on the Whataburger. I like their burger. Their honey butter chicken biscuit or biscuit is phenomenal. Their breakfast is legit.
I like their spicy ketchup. They have their own signature spicy ketchup.
I've not had that.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's going to change how this private equity firm got it. They're going to sub out all their sources of materials.
I hope they don't. Either two ways. They're going to do that and then expand into different states that don't deserve Whataburger, or they're going to continue to focus on what they do right and then possibly expand also.
I would vote for a Whataburger here. I would be okay with it.
As long as they maintain the quality of standards.
Right.
Sure,
now.
100%.
Yeah. But once you start doing that, there's only so many ways to make money.
Yeah, as long as all I know is if they have a Chicago style hot dog on their menu, you know that the place is going down the hill. Or Italian beef or something like that.
If you are in the market for a high-quality cigar for a very reasonable price, you must check out Watchman Cigars. Watchman Cigars is a family-owned business that puts the customer first with the best customer service in the business. Watchman Cigars offers the Habano for a full, spicy flavor, the Connecticut for a mild, easy-to-smoke option, and the Maduro for a strong, powerful experience. They even do specialty blends and partner with you to provide a custom exclusive line just for you. Watchman Cigars has all your cigar needs. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Watchman Cigars 1991 or email Leon directly at Watchman_cigars@yahoo.com. That's Watchman_cigars@yahoo.com, or check out the sponsors section of our website. So we're going to go to This Week in AOC. She is doubling down in concentration camps.
Yeah, so AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the distinguished congresswoman from New York, who she's a laugh a minute. Anyway, she tweeted this past week, this administration has established concentration camps on the southern border of the United States for immigrants, where they are being brutalized with dehumanizing conditions and dying. This is not her hyperbole. It is the conclusion of expert analysis. Yeah, that's it. So what do you guys think? And also it says, I'm sorry, her follow-up tweet when you said double down.
She doubled down.
It says, and for the shrieking Republicans who don't know the difference, concentration camps are not the same as death camps. Concentration camps are considered by experts as the mass detention of civilians without trial, and that's exactly what this administration is doing. Thoughts?
First thought is she intentionally used concentration camp because it's the image. There's a certain image that's stirred in people's minds every time you hear that word.
What is the image when you say concentration camp?
Honestly, I see starving people that are basically skeletons standing in ratty, looks like pajamas.
Right, but also the general group of people that was responsible.
Jews or the Nazis. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It's definitely pulling Nazi imagery out of that. I mean, again, as a student of history, Stalin had his camps, Mao had his camps. I'm drawing a blank on the guy in Laos. Am I right? I can't.
Mao Zedong. Pol Pot. Yeah.
They all had their camps, and
Kim Jong Un has camps right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think concentration camps. That is not that terminology is used as a sizzle word.
Yeah,
absolutely. It
stirs a certain image.
Absolutely, and the most common use of that terminology is Nazi or Nazism, and of course, That is the sizzle phrase of the extreme left of everyone is either a fascist or a Nazi. Punch Nazis, punch fascists. Trump is a Nazi. Trump is a fascist. Anyone who does not agree with their ideology is a Nazi or a fascist. Yeah. So therefore, you're contributing to this.
Just for fun, I pulled up the definition of a concentration camp: a place where large numbers of people, especially political prisoners or members of a persecuted minority, are deliberately imprisoned in a relatively small area with inadequate but specific facilities, sometimes forced to provide labor or to await mass execution. The term is most strongly associated with several hundred camps established by Nazi Germany and occupied in Europe in 1933 through 45. And also then, if you are playing at home, the definition of a concentration camp is a yellow bus transports children and teenagers to a concentration camp, nicknamed school, 5 days of the week. That's from UrbanDictionary.com.
You're going to be spot on with Urban Dictionary for the next few episodes.
We're pretty good friends.
Yeah, my boy's pretty much into the Urban Dictionary too. So enjoy that part of it.
Do not look up
a lot of things.
I will not say.
Alabama Hot Pocket.
I cannot say.
The thing is you can make up just about any phrase you want and look it up, and it's like, whoa, okay.
Hey, buddy, I didn't know that.
So anyway, Congress people were elected every 2 years.
Correct.
So I wonder what AOC's re-electability is going to be for her next term. I
think that in her district, unless somebody primaries her, she's in like Flynn for the next 25 years.
I saw a poll recently, and polls are about as useful as a fart in a spacesuit some days. So I don't take much credit to them, but the only person who's going to run against AOC is another Democrat. So it'll be Democrat, and then unchallenged primary.
There'll be a token Republican that runs. There's already one that's signed up, but I mean, it doesn't matter. But, it's a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, when you get like 2%, you can. I mean, you can add that to your resume. Right? I mean, that's about
pretty much what it is. Yeah.
I think I don't think she's going to get a second term. I think she is infuriated, especially the loss of Amazon. I think she's infuriated her district. But besides that, the concentration camp, I think. We have been seeing a lot of references to concentration, Holocaust, death camps, things like that in the news here recently.
But isn't this also the same party that tried to eliminate the whole idea that even took place?
This is part of the same party who is actually part of eugenics, which is for the mass extinction of people that do not fit a certain DNA profile.
Right. So they're just bringing it back on themselves.
When you think things cannot get stranger than fiction, the Democratic Party or a member of the Democratic Party tweets out, says something, it's absolutely absurd. I mean, like today we had a whole hearing on reparations. We are 150 years post slavery, and we're talking about reparations.
Enter Marty. Go ahead, McFly.
I mean, I've got a little different take on this, but I do feel like that something at some point needs to be addressed with that. I'm never, again, you and I have talked, I'm never in favor of just taking money and giving it to people, because that is literally like the worst thing you can do. People that have never had money have no idea how to deal with money.
It didn't work out good for the Beverly Hillbillies.
I'm crap with money. I mean, I thank God my wife manages better than I do, because I want to go buy that. I go buy it. But I feel like that there needs to be a level of investment in minority communities that have not been made. I think there was an attempt at it in '65 with Johnson's Great Society programs, but they were horribly misguided.
You're talking about the war on poverty?
Yes. Horribly misguided, horrible misuse of funds. Well, there was a lot of different ways they could have gone about that to actually put money in people's pockets through economic development, as opposed to just giving them just enough to keep them. To me, it's like a drug dealer. They give them just enough to keep them on the take.
But hold on. But no, it wouldn't give them enough on the take. It was to buy their vote. And see, these problems will never be solved by that because they do not have the individual or the family unit or the community in a holistic approach. It's always about buying the vote. The war on poverty was nothing about buying votes. For example, when they came by and interviewed people, they would ask them, are you a single household or a single family or a single person in a household, or are you married to a husband? Oh, you have a man in your house? Well, you actually qualify for this versus if you're a single mom. And that was a degradation of the family in the 60s.
Absolutely. Government programs have been the demolition of the family unit.
So here's the problem I have with reparations. It is very hard to take a mass society. Let's just say there's 100 million Black Americans in this country.
There's not.
Huh?
There's not.
How many?
Give me a minute. I'll tell you. Google is my friend.
Siri.
There are 1 million non-Hispanic blacks in the United States.
It's at 37 million.
37,144,530 as of the 2010 census. So they're basically make up 14% of the U.S. population. African Americans make up 14%.
So we've murdered 19 million African Americans since 1972.
Probably more than that, actually.
No, it's just a recent statistic I saw yesterday. So we've murdered almost 50% of. Wow.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many Black Americans are there in the United States?
I found this.
This is 40.24.
Yeah, so they've gone up since 2010. But
all right, so there's 40 million Black Americans in the United States. I mean, are we going to do direct DNA testing? Because or we're going to do like Native Americans, for example, on the Cherokee National Tribe in North Carolina. If you want to get any type of incentive back from the casinos and the tribal community, you actually have to have X amount of percentage of Native American Cherokee DNA in your body. Excuse me, Elizabeth Warren, you don't qualify. But how do we do that? I mean, that is going to be a financial boondoggle.
Sure.
That we will never be able to recoup.
Maybe my boy Andrew Yang's onto something. No, nothing. Just give everybody $100 or $1,000 a month and move on.
How about we just do that? How about we just do this? How about we just cut everybody's taxes by $12,000 a year?
Well, that would work if the majority of Americans actually paid $12,000
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. See, it's a net loss for everybody. Yeah. I mean, giving money just happenstancely is never going to happen. How about we just do away with all IRS? We just do a straight VAT tax.
I would be all over that. If we did a straight value added tax and got rid of the IRS tomorrow because a computer could do their job at that point, I would be all over it.
Yeah, I think that would
Absolutely.
I think that would add wealth automatically 100 million times.
Well, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to calculate because we are a consumer transaction society.
Yeah,
and every transaction gets hit with a tax.
That's right.
You don't worry about. The people who save money are going to love it because they make money on that.
Yeah.
And the people that spend their money are going to churn the economy even more.
Yeah.
That's right. I think it's huge.
So, yeah. I mean, and that's one thing. And again, I'm not all the way through the book yet, but Andrew talks repeatedly about we're the only advanced economy in the world that does not have a value added tax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think you go to a flat value added tax. I mean, it could be 18%, 20%. I mean, it would save all of us money.
And it's on every transaction. It's like, you want to talk about how to tax the rich, tax all the money they spend.
Yeah.
But also tax the people that, for example, someone who may be living on government assistance, who's making $1,300 a month. Yep. And all of a sudden that person goes and buys a 47-inch TV or something like that. Well, guess what? That choice that they're making to sacrifice for next month's needs, they're going to pay for that.
Yeah. And honestly, with people on the lower end of the economic scale, I would have no trouble having certain things exempted from that. I mean, basic foods. I mean, and most value-added taxes. Yeah, most value-added taxes, they're graduated in what you purchase.
But also, it's also basic needs, like for example, food, things like that.
Yeah.
Is usually exempted.
Yeah, or taxed at a much lower rate.
But value-added tax is usually on expendable items like luxury items, clothes, things like that. So you have to actually plan.
It's like some of us clothes are not luxury.
But reparations, I think can get so muddied I mean, if all of a sudden the Senate sent up a bill to Trump to sign for reparations, I would immediately divest every dollar I have, and I would invest it into every DNA stock out there. Ancestry.com, which is, I guess, owned by Alphabet or Google. Any company like that I would do, because automatically we could all buy tests tomorrow and test the percentage of Black America that we have in us. I guarantee I have it.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point in the however many generations I've been around, I guarantee I have a little bit in me.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
And I think it's a political football. We all know that.
Oh, it's just
something to bounce back and forth and yell about. Nothing's ever going to come of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would take people smarter than us to figure out the way to implement something like that to make it feasible. But again, to me, the only way that I would ever be in favor of it is if they figured out a way to economically develop areas that needed the development, not give money directly to people, but invest in communities for better housing, better schools, bring people up, give them a chance to become participants in the economy, not people who are constantly being supported by the economy.
I agree. But I think that you will probably see where where private investment has done that. Magic Johnson did this in L.A. years ago. He went and took his burger chains. He went and bought. He actually brought Starbucks into these communities. Now, these communities have been depressed for a number of years. I guarantee if we look at those snapshots right now in 2019 versus 2009 when they started, those communities have still recessed. They have not taken advantage of it.
Right. And I think, but part of that, we had the teachers on a few weeks or a month and a half ago now. But you think about the schools. I mean, if the entire area doesn't get raised up, just putting a McDonald's on the corner and a Starbucks, and honestly, if you're living on $800 a month, which is what you're, say that's your EBT for the month, you're not going to go to Starbucks.
We're not doing EBT. Average income would be probably on the low end $1,200 plus another $300 or $400 in EBT. So I mean, that's $1,500 a month that you're not working for. That, for example, you would have to actually go get a job making probably $10 an hour to accommodate that at 30 hours a week. I mean, it gives no incentive for people to actually traject themselves up.
Right.
I'm not sorry for people that do not want to pull themselves up. There's been many stories. Once you give a government handout, you're implying that person's a victim. You're saying, guess what? Here's free money. You're a victim. I do not agree with that. At all, because that money is not being propagated by the government. That government has been taken from someone who actually has worked for it, redistributed through the system, and given to a person. You're automatically basically saying that person is a victim of society, a victim of neighborhoods, a victim of their culture, a victim of their color of the skin, a victim of their gender, a victim of this. I just don't think reparations stops there. There's already been a movement now for reparations for the LGBTQ community. I mean, how many people are going to sit there and go, you know what? I'm actually, my ancestry is Black and I'm also gay. I'd sign up for tomorrow. I want a paycheck. There's going to be people that do that and milk the system. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents, but no, I could be completely off the reservation with that. I didn't mean that in a negative racial conversation.
Yeah, the only thing I got to say to that.
Yeah, hell no.
All right, so we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we have our guest Josh Brahm from the Equal Rights Institute. He will be our guest on this episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. We'll be right back.
They're sitting in the county jail. It's a shame. I heard the mama, she was crying all night. She can't get no money for the bill. Come on. Now the man with the home run, cause they didn't put no money in the commissary. Your friend gone now. If they had you in the jail, brother, man, you were sure headed for the cemetery. Come on, wait. See, there's an old saying that a hard head make a soft behind. Yeah. Well, since you did the crime, go on do the time. Stop the baby crying. Come on, come on. Hell no. To the no, no, no. Yeah, to the no. Hell to the no. gotta do is let them talk much as they please.
Welcome back to the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. On today, as we mentioned earlier in the show, we have Josh Brahm from the Equal Rights Institute. You can find him on the equalrightsinstitute.com. You can also find him on Facebook. Where else, Josh?
Oh, Twitter, Instagram, all the things.
Offer Up, Let Go, Craigslist, wherever.
We're not on Snapchat. That feels weird, but
that's kind of I just downloaded Snapchat for the transgender filters or the whatever it is, the filter they just have.
Oh no!
Yeah, I had to do it for the kiddos.
Just curious.
Anyway, so yeah, Josh is here today. We've actually asked him on a couple weeks ago. Just couldn't line our schedules up. We wanted to talk about the new bills that have been passing in some of these states. You've had states like Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana.
Yep. There's 8 of them. So Mississippi, Iowa, Louisiana, Missouri. That's most of them.
Quite a few
I'm missing one, I think. Ohio.
Okay, you've had states out there that have now done like heartbeat bills to just total abortion bans with extreme exception of medical necessary reasons. Right. And then you've had other states like Vermont,
New York,
Illinois
recently.
Yeah, Illinois, and a few other states have actually mentioned also where they're going to just basically go full on board.
Abortion through all 9 months, basically.
Abortion through nine and a half months. I think some of them have stated, especially like Governor Northam with Virginia, basically after the baby is born. So anyway, so we're just going to have an open, honest discussion. I mean, we like softball topics here, we don't like to offend anybody, but anyway, we're just kind of going, this is just a topic that has interested a lot of us and a lot of our listeners, and we want to kind of bring an expert who actually is in this field besides our opinions to kind of just address this. So welcome to the show, Justin.
It's really great to be back, and it makes sense to talk about this. You've got philosophy in the name of your show. How can we not talk about this?
That's right.
And just for fun, let's go ahead and run that disclaimer. The views and opinions of Southern Fried Philosophy are not necessarily those of our guests, sponsors, or friends of the show, but they should be. That's just a little CYA. And to give a little bit of background, Josh, tell people where you're from, what organization, tell us about the organization.
Yeah, so I've been doing full-time pro-life work since I was about 21 years old, and I was mainly pro-life speaking and writing and podcasting. And so, but 5 years ago now, my brother and I launched our own organization called Equal Rights Institute, and we try to help pro-life people to be less weird. And
that's a task, my friend.
It is a task. We have our work cut out for us.
Sure.
We're trying to help pro-life people to be more like Jesus. So, what would it look like if Jesus talked to a pro-choice person? Mm-hmm. What would that look like? What would his body language look like? What kinds of questions would he ask? What would he not ask? And what would it sound like when he made arguments that are spoken with grace and gentleness, even though he's not holding back from truth? I just want to help the whole pro-life movement to get closer to whatever that mark is. So we're a national organization, and we do speaking and writing and podcasting and videos and courses and campus outreach. And we're focusing on 4 main areas. It used to be 3, but we've recently added a 4th. But the first thing that we think a lot about are practical dialogue tips. So we've had cumulatively, our staff, 5,000 conversations with pro-choice people. And we've just learned a lot of things. We've learned a lot of things about how, the little things you can do in a conversation that helps someone to be more receptive and less defensive. And that's really important, because if they're defensive, you're not going to change their mind about anything. Sure. So how do we help them to make it feel less like a debate and more like we're just friends at Starbucks?
Can you give us some examples of just a few of those?
Things like body language. I think generally when you make your argument, to just make your argument and end it with a period, and don't use a leading question. Don't make an argument that ends with a question mark where you're saying, well, if X is true, then wouldn't Y also have to be true? That can make them feel defensive, because they feel like you're leading them somewhere, even if you're not, but it feels like you are. And then they kind of shut down. You're trying to maximize clarity, make clarity completely your responsibility. So there's ways that you can try to make sure that you are being extra clear, but you've also got to kind of bear their burden of clarity, because they're probably not going to be that clear. So you got to work extra hard to make sure you don't straw man them. So thinking like rephrase what they said. If they say something like, if they've kind of made their argument, then what I might do is, okay, before I respond to that, let me tell you what I hear you saying, because I want you to let me know if I've got it wrong, because we miss each other all the time. Like, well-meaning people miss each other. Husbands and wives miss each other.
Yeah.
I literally just had a conversation with my wife right before driving here, and we missed each other. There's a word that we were both using differently, and we only realized like at the very end, and I was like, hey, we're literally going to have to redo this conversation now because we've been talking past each other this whole time. So like this just happens. And so I'm going to tell you what I hear you saying in my own words. Let me know what I get wrong. I don't want to get this wrong. I want to really understand you. So it's just like little things like that. We also talk about philosophy. So there are some good, like true pro-life arguments that are very persuasive. There are some true pro-life arguments that are not that persuasive. And there are just some bad arguments.
Sure.
And so we talk about that.
Because God said, period. That's probably not.
That's such a not persuasive argument. The Bible says so.
The Bible said.
That doesn't work with atheists. So like we talk about relational apologetics, the art of cultivating friendships with people who are different from you. Like that's my vision for the pro-life movement. Most people cannot change their minds because they had one conversation with someone like me on a college campus. It's going to be being friends with someone like Brandon and having a series of a dozen or two conversations over coffee or something like that, where you can kind of work through all the different kind of hurdles that are in between them and either the pro-life position or the Christian position, whatever it is that you're talking about, getting through those with someone that they trust. In that context of friendship, that's far more persuasive, especially to younger people, than just talking to a stranger on a campus.
Yeah.
And then the new thing that we've recently added is something, this is a kind of a pro-life phrase, so I'll explain what I mean by it, but the way the phrase that people usually use is sidewalk counseling. This is the phrase for when people are standing on a sidewalk in front of an abortion clinic and trying to encourage women to not have abortions. They're kind of that last line of defense. And I accidentally hired an amazing sidewalk counselor. Like I knew he did sidewalk counseling, but I didn't expect we would ever get into that. I even told him like we're apologetics and philosophy and dialectics, but I hired him to do logistics. Well, it turns out he's not very good at logistics. It took me a couple of years to really realize that.
Oh, wow.
But it's that whole, he was the right person. He's so good. We're so glad to have him on our team. I just had him doing the wrong thing. I didn't have him in his skill set, but it turns out he's amazing at sidewalk counseling. And we had a lot of people asking us to help with that. And so we're almost done creating a brand new online course on his kind of like a master class on how he sidewalk counsels. So that's kind of what we do.
So holding up a sign also it
depends on the sign. So we actually, one of the lessons in the course, we go through, I don't remember how many, I feel like somewhere between 25 and 50 different sign options, and just get Jacob's take on what signs are effective and work and why, and then what are some signs that are commonly held that are not as effective and why. So that's why we call this a sidewalk counseling masterclass, because we're really focusing not on a whole bunch of different people's opinions in this case. In this case, we're saying Jacob is awesome. Let's understand what he thinks about all these different things and why. And I think he explains his views really well.
And that's different from your other three principles, because you use mainly just a lot of data to figure out how to best make those arguments. Right. This way is just, Jacob, what do you think?
So what's interesting is, how he's come to his conclusions are based on a lot of data. And this is what I mean when I say he's great at sidewalk counseling. So one of the things that makes us kind of unique and cool, I think, something that I'm the most proud of our organization, is we are intentionally an innovative and flexible apologetics organization. Okay. We are always trying to beat our own stuff. So when we go into a college campus, that's our lab. We're doing R&D. We're trying different things. I have a cold Google Doc that no one's allowed to see, but it's full of ideas of things that I either haven't tried yet or I haven't tried enough times to figure out how well it works. But we're always trying to figure out what is working and what is not working. It doesn't matter, is it what we've always taught? Is it what we like to use as an argument that we like? I want to know what actually changes minds. Obviously, it's got to be true also, but but there are some true arguments that don't change people's minds. Yeah. And we found that. And so what we're trying to figure out is what works. So it turns out that what makes Jacob so awesome is he's been doing the same thing on sidewalks for 5 years. I just didn't know it until a couple of years ago when we started talking about it, and it like blew my mind. I was like, wait a minute. You've been doing R&D on the sidewalk, like for figuring out new cool techniques. Like he's been figuring out, for example, why it's good to even have men as sidewalk counselors. I always thought, wait a minute, that's a women's thing. That's what the female pro-life people ought to be, because they're going to be the more safe-looking people, right? It just makes sense. Yet Jacob said, yeah, but who is the one waiting outside for 4 hours while she has an abortion? Her boyfriend. He doesn't want to be in the waiting room, and he can't leave. He's not allowed to leave. He's a driver. It's usually the boyfriend. So he's usually hanging outside smoking or on his phone or whatever. That's and Jacob is awesome at connecting with those guys because you guys know there is a way that men, once they've built up a certain kind of rapport with each other, we can push each other in a way that women can't push us. In a way that's like, it's not offensive for us to like kind of really, push in a certain way that women just can't really pull off. And so it's actually valuable to have both men and women filling kind of different roles on the sidewalk. Well, that's straight out of Jacob's awesome mind. It just took us a long time to kind of mine all the gold out of it because he can't write at all. So it's like he's the best storyteller I know, and he can't write worth a darn. So you've got to like just get him telling stories, and then like you're mining all these gold nuggets out of it, and then figuring out how to write it and outline it.
Nice. Very cool.
So, like we talked about, there's been several bills, and I'm sure all 50 states and including some of our territories will probably be passing similar legislation. Yeah. And so, I guess normally from a 10,000 foot view, what is your kind of take on this right now?
I think there's good things and bad things. Okay. Like I think what's going on is both sides are, for the most part, reacting to the fact that Brett Kavanaugh was appointed to the Supreme Court. So for pro-lifers and a lot of pro-choice people, frankly, they believe now for the first time that there's a 5-4 majority of pro-lifers on the Supreme Court. In fact, if you watch there's a Netflix documentary that came out last year called Reversing Roe. It's a super pro-choice, biased, deceptive documentary. I have a whole video series on our YouTube channel exposing how it's deceptively edited and has a bunch of really bad arguments in it. But you get that picture from the documentary. They really think it's all about just getting a 5-4 majority. Now, I think they're wrong. I think that's always been wrong. Clark Forsyth is a brilliant pro-life thinker who wrote a long time ago, like 5-10 years ago, wrote in one of his books that we would need at least a 6-3 majority, because if Roe versus Wade and Casey v. Planned Parenthood, which came about 20 years later, if both those cases are overturned, that'll be the most controversial thing to happen on the Supreme Court in 100 years. No one is going to want to be the swing vote on that. No one's going to be one of the Kennedy vote, right? And so you're going to need at least 6-3. You might even need more. Brown versus Board of Education, where they desegregated schools, they waited. I only learned this recently. They waited until it was 9-0.
Oh, wow.
And they did that for a reason. And I don't know whether it was the right strategy or not, but the reasoning was, I hear, that they wanted to make sure this will never go back. They wait till it's 9-0. This is never turning around. It's not just a matter of 1 or 2 Supreme Court justices getting appointed and things like reversing. So they waited till it's 9-0. Anyway, it's not going to be 5-4. It's going to be at least 6-3. So all that being said, a lot of people, I think, wrongly thought, oh, Kavanaugh's on the Supreme Court. And so now the Supreme Court has basically completely changed. And so pro-choice people were reacting like New York did, which is like, let's pass the most extreme pro-choice bills ever in kind of a protest of a combination of Kavanaugh and Trump. And then you had, I think, some pro-lifers, and I don't know this firsthand because I'm not in touch with the pro-lifers that passed these bills. Clearly, there was a coordinated effort. In fact, a lot of the bills are practically copied and pasted from each other, and they weren't consulting with me, or else I would have told them not to do this. But we can get into that later. But clearly, what they're doing, I think pretty clearly, they're reacting to, hey, Kavanaugh's on. Maybe now, if we pass one of these bills that is in total violation of Roe and Casey, which they are, any bill that's banning abortion before 20 weeks is a clear violation of Roe and Casey. And I can explain why that is if you wanted to, but let's just say for sake of argument is totally in violation, which means those state bills don't have an effect. If you're in Alabama, don't think abortion's banned now. It's not. That's not the way this works because state bills don't trump Supreme Court law. You could get like a federal constitutional amendment, which is really, really hard to do. You could do that. But at this point, the Supreme Court, the Roe versus Wade, that's the law of the land, or really Casey v. Planned Parenthood, if you want to get technical and nerdy, is the law of the land because it gutted Roe. But like that's unfortunately where it is. Now, that's not the way the founders meant for the country to work.
Sure.
The way the founders meant for the country to work, if it's not in the Constitution, states can do whatever they want. And that's what you had before Roe versus Wade. And then in Roe versus Wade in 73, in its companion case Doe versus Bolton, the Supreme Court wiped every state bill off the books and replaced it with one, well, really two huge Supreme Court decisions that said abortion is a constitutional right. And we found that right through the right to privacy and things like that. So what that means is that pro-lifers in Georgia and Alabama and Iowa and these different states are they're purposely trying to get the Supreme Court to reconsider Roe and Casey. This is what the strategy is, because they're in complete violation. They're flying in the face of it. They're kind of flipping the bird to Roe versus Wade. And so then the question is, what happens if they take the bait, which maybe they might even have to. And I don't know, but it feels like when 8 states do this, like they might be forced to basically do an abortion bill.
I don't know. We've already had a precedent set with cannabis laws. The federal government's not jumping on.
How many states have passed cannabis laws now? This is like not an area that I know a lot about.
23, something like that.
It's like 12 or 13.
12 or 13, but I think we have 23
that are medicinal.
23 that are medicinal / recreational / whatever.
I feel like that's coming too, though. Like it feels like.
No, I think. But what I'm saying though is that under purview, under two administrations, we've had a Department of Justice who could have kept those states, certain states, and their legislature and government actually brought the federal government to actually arrest, cannabis users. So, I think cannabis I don't think we'd be sitting here right now with a pro-life movement if it wouldn't have been for cannabis. Because I think cannabis.
Wait, well, how? This is interesting. I've not heard this argument before.
I'm deadly serious because the cannabis, like I said, we already have 23 states. Cannabis has been the bugaboo since 1931, I believe, is when cannabis was actually officially made illegal. Okay. So, we've gone this far, 90 years or whatever, 30 or 80 years, whatever,
right,
where all of a sudden you start to see one state, California, and then Colorado, and then these states push this narrative that, we're going to leave this to states' rights. If you want to challenge this federal government, go ahead. Now, the federal government's had certain things where banks can't accept money or credit card user or credit card companies will not be able to use their services to process. But anyway, that's kind of a moot point. But I think we may not be here right now with the pro-life movement in these states if it wouldn't be for the cannabis, because I think the federal government has already shown in action against cannabis that we may not see it we may see it in action right now with the pro-life and pro-choice movement right now. I think we may just cobble up and be like, all right, what's your state's position?
So
interesting.
Your position is that they're not going to take a position. Whatever the state says, they're just not going to do anything.
I would like to see it go back to the Supreme Court. But
I don't yet.
I don't yet, because I think Kavanaugh and Roberts are 2 wild cards on the deck. People,
especially Roberts,
especially Roberts.
If it's 5-4, Roberts will go pro-choice.
Yep,
without a doubt.
Roberts is we like it or not. I mean, I'm not for a government mandate for health care, and Roberts proved us all wrong. We thought we had the wild card in.
Right.
Boy. I mean, he voted against us in Louisiana recently. Like the thing with Roberts is, I think Roberts, and this is based on knowing people who know Roberts, is he is pro-life, but Roberts cares less about abortion than he cares about the legacy of the court. Like he feels like his role as the chief. as the chief is to preserve the legacy of the court. And so if you force Roberts, and this is my view, there are some pro-life people that disagree with me, but I pretty strongly believe that right now, if you force Roberts to choose between 2 things, overturning Roe versus Wade with 5 men or preserving legacy of the court, he's going to go legacy of the court every time.
Which is absurd, because it doesn't matter if it's whatever the makeup of gender of the 283 genders out there. It doesn't matter to the makeup of that.
So it matters. I agree with that, like at a philosophical level, and you're right to say that this is a philosophy show, but PR and optics are a thing.
Yeah.
I think if God had his way with Ruth Bader Ginsburg and she retired and came to Jesus and died peacefully in her bed. That's my hope.
That's the goal.
That's my hope for her, which is a lot more charitable than some other people's hopes for her.
Sure.
And Trump replaced her with someone like Amy Barrett. Maybe then we have a ball game.
I really like Amy Barrett.
I do too.
I really do.
Awesome.
I wish she would have been on the lineup versus Kavanaugh.
There's not that many people that know, but we actually had made a video before they announced Kavanaugh about how glad we were that he picked Amy Barrett. Like we'd already made the video so that we could right away drop this thing, and then he announced Kavanaugh is like deleted.
You should have just kept it. It'll be good.
Yeah, maybe.
But you know, there's Vegas odds for everything. Okay,
Yeah.
And Kavanaugh was 3 out of the Vegas odds.
Wow.
Barrett was number 1. See, that's how surprised Vegas. So $10. I think a $10 bet on Kavanaugh would have paid you almost $30,000 in Vegas.
What?
Yeah. It was something ridiculous.
Yeah, but I think it was one of those things where he took a calculated risk. He was banking on getting one more before his term is up, and he knew Kavanaugh would be the hardest one.
And it's nice to replace. So, like, if you be replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg, then he's replacing a woman with a woman.
Yeah, and on the other, and also you think about it like this: he knew they were going to throw the book at whoever he nominated. It didn't matter. I mean, he could have, Jesus could have come down and they would have found a way to do something.
Yeah.
So I think he knows next time around it's going to be a little. I think it's going to have to be a little more reserved, because if they're showing as going after a woman who's as accomplished as she is, it's going to look. It's a bad optic. We were talking optics matter, and it's a really bad optic.
It does. It's going to be easier to pick her also later because of the times he wasn't that experienced. He didn't have as much time on the circuit court at this point. Maybe she would have several years there, which would make her an easier, swing for the Senate.
I think it's funny how RBG has become this like pro-choice female empowerment icon when she has been just relegated to just nothingness for so many years, and all of a sudden now she's like, there are people like documentaries.
Yeah,
she's really interesting. I mean, she was this pro-choice justice who was saying back at Roe that they should have decided Roe with a different argument. Like, she was like glad it went the pro-choice way, but she was like, this is the wrong argument. It shouldn't be based on privacy. It should be based on equality. Make it like women can't have equality without the right to an abortion. That'll be a better argument. So I do think it is a better argument.
Legally, it was definitely a better structured argument.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pro-life people argue that's the way to overturn Roe versus Wade is not through the right to an abortion, but the precedent that it was decided on is the better way to attack it.
Well, I wish we would just actually go to fundamentals versus, throw out the religious argument.
Yeah.
If you go to the basic philosophical argument, is that in the womb, is that a human being?
Right.
Does that human being actually have human DNA?
Right.
I think if we were to actually focus on that versus like, what would Jesus do? Or I knew you in the womb. I knew how many hairs were on your head, because everyone doesn't follow the Judeo-Christian belief that cells united between a biological male and a biological female actually make a baby. I wish we'd actually fundamentally follow the logic. Does when XX and XY combine, is that actually a human being?
Yeah, and how do we determine, is this a valuable human being or not? I guess this is part of why we started the Equal Rights Institute, was because, when I talk about us like wanting to do R&D, we had stumbled upon a pro-life argument that was so much more persuasive than anything we'd ever used before, which we call the equal rights argument. That's why we started the Equal Rights Institute. And it wasn't even an argument. We heard it from some brilliant philosopher at Biola, but we started messing around with it on college campuses, and I have never seen anything change more minds about abortion. And that's the direction we're focusing on equality. Yeah. Because young people care more about equality than anything else. So I'm basically saying, look, we can agree that human adults get equality. We get an equal right to life. Why is that? Isn't that because there's something that we all have in common, that we all have equally? Because it's got to be something we have equally. It can't be something like intelligence, which you could have more or less of. It's not going to get you equality. What gets us equality is there something that we all have in common, that we have equally. And I think that thing is something like humanness.
Consciousness.
No, it's not consciousness. If you go consciousness, then first squirrels are in now. Squirrels get an equal right to life because they're conscious.
No, they're conscious, but I don't think they don't have consciousness. Where for example, a squirrel doesn't think of an afterlife, at least to our understanding through scientific knowledge.
That is true, because I've took out a few of those.
Well, you murderer. But anyway, but human beings from the onset of mankind, we've always looked towards the past. We've always looked towards the future. Now that future may be in whatever, dogma that you follow. It may be into the present. It may be into some other dimension or afterlife. Mm-hmm. I don't think squirrels or animals have that.
Yeah, so I think there's a way to make that argument that's really, really good, and then there's a way to screw it up. So I'll point out. I'll point out how to screw it up.
I'm very good at screwing it up.
Here's how you screw it up.
Good point.
It's so weird that we're talking about this, because literally yesterday all afternoon I spent with our philosophy team talking about this stuff. So it's kind of cool that we're talking about it now. But the way to screw that up would be to say that to be a person, you would have to presently be able to do that thing, and that can't. Anytime you say it's the present ability to do anything, to do X, you're going to end up with wrong answers. You're going to get newborns are going to be out because they usually can't do those kinds of things. If you say that what matters is being having what philosophers call a higher order capacity, but I'll use different language. I'll say like something like being a member of a kind of thing that is naturally ordered toward being able to do that at some point, then you're good. Because there are lots of philosophers that disagree about what exactly is a thing. So you're saying something like consciousness, and by that you mean a very advanced level of awareness of past, present, future, and maybe even alternative universes, which is and I think that's a legitimate view. There are other people. We
could lower the standard to being able to wipe your own butt.
So that's a problem because apes can do that.
Oh, okay. Well,
I got a dog that's pretty good at it too.
Cats. There's some cats that can flush toilets. Like, why aren't they in at that point? But yeah, we're probably getting a little bit philosophically into the weeds. But I would argue something like humanness, and if that's what gets you in, and if the unborn have that, which they totally do, then they're in. They should get treated equally. And I've never seen anything change more minds on abortion, is them seeing like, look, to be pro-equality, they have to be pro-life.
But would the argument just be that, well, it's not a human until it pops out?
Not human. If by human, well, it depends on what you mean by human. If by human you mean member of the biological species Homo sapiens, I don't think that's exactly it. And that's why I said something like humanness. I did that on purpose. I'm being philosophically imprecise on purpose with my language. With my language for their sake. Basically, like Brandon jumped us straight into the weeds, right? Of like, let's get really philosophical, which is like, that's my playground. I love hanging out there. That's cool. But if you do that with most pro-choice people, in our experience, you mess up the conversation. Like, it's just too easy to get on all these different tangents, or they get confused about the distinction. So by saying something like humanness, I'm kind of implying that it's human DNA. It's not human DNA. I don't think human DNA is actually the thing that makes you valuable. But it's really close to the right answer, and it's really easy to understand. And so for their sake, to try to help the conversation proceed, I keep it simple unless they bring me advanced like Brandon did by going all higher order capacity.
Well, I just think that we have to ask, okay, I mean, the basic question of, is this organization of cells potentially human being? Do they have the same DNA code that I do? If the answer is yes, then does that clump of cells have intrinsic value at any given point in that span? Now, there's no guarantee that baby or that clump of cells will reach maturity at 9 months and then progress into the outer regions of the real world. But does that clump of cells, quote unquote, fetus, baby, does that have any intrinsic value in utero? And what gets really me upset is when you have the same people who argue for pro-choice, and then they argue against the misappropriation of animals, or the abuse of animals, right, or the abuse of this or that. And I want to scratch my head with a Brillo pad because my brain.
If it helps, I can explain what's going on there.
Please do.
Here's what's going on, because we can't counter someone unless we understand where they're coming from, right? So
just
go ahead.
I want to salt the water a little bit. There's actually a huge fine if you actually were to take a bald eagle egg and actually crush it, or whatever,
steal it, or whatever.
Egg a house with it.
Yeah, I mean. But there's no repercussions for in utero. You know what I'm saying? We value the bald eagle egg federally more than we do a human life.
Yeah. And so I think the bald eagle egg thing, I think has like part of what that has to do with is like the like how close to extinction bald eagles may be or something like that. So
sea turtles.
Okay. So if you go with something that's like, let's take an example. Like I'm assuming sea turtles aren't near extinction. I don't know a lot about sea turtles.
Actually, I mean, you take any type of mostly species. I mean, like for example, in North Carolina, hawks.
Okay.
Murder of hawk eggs, or the taking of hawk eggs, actually becomes with a crime, with a penalty.
Yeah, well, you'll remember the episode of which we had to remove off of our list is
no. Let's clarify.
Well,
I took out of consciousness,
out of my own higher level of consciousness.
And it's the reason why I don't post on Facebook anymore because I offend people.
Here we go. Seriously, that if I were to kill,
I'm giving you a hug across the table.
I know you are. If I were to kill an animal that does not have a hunting season, it has the same federal rights that if I were to kill a person versus a bird that does not have a hunting season. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah. So if I were to try to cash out the hunting season thing, I would assume that I'm not a hunter, so feel free to educate me if I'm missing this. But I would assume that it's not that whoever's the department over like fish and game or whatever, wildlife, fish and game, whatever.
The department of uselessness. I think it's pretty sure that's the one that goes through.
There's only one. Would be saying they're not saying that like this one hawk is more valuable than this one hawk. They would say like to help preserve the species or whatever, then we're going to limit how many times you can kill that species and separate and the only way they can enforce that is with fines and things like that, right? So, but I think what's going on, I do think that it's true that there are a lot of people that value animal life a lot more than they value
100%
fetal human life, and so I think what's going on there is these people are thinking differently about animals than they think about the unborn. They're thinking of like when they think of like if an animal rights activist that would be really, really depressed. It's just the idea of a deer being shot and killed. Like, what's going on for them? Well, they think differently about what's going on with that deer. They think here's a deer that is at least minimally conscious or like sentient or something like that, right? And might have little deer babies and like all these different things. Like it's just like different to them. Whereas they think of an unborn child as being, well, first of all, they wouldn't think of it as a child, as a fetus or an embryo or something like that. And so it gets this like lower status. They might think of it as like maybe the value of like a golden retriever or something like that, or maybe nothing. And because they're thinking this is a potential person. It's not a person right now, the way you and I think about it. It has the potential of being a person. Yeah. And if you cut it off, if you terminate the pregnancy in their mind, then all you're doing is just keeping the potential from fulfilling, basically, right? You've taken an entity that could have been a person and made it so it will never become a person, and so it's fine. Versus in our mind, you're taking a person and taking it out of existence. You're killing it. So we think very differently about what's going on in the womb. But I do think that it is valuable to talk about animals sometimes because there's usually this common ground that we can find with most people about there being something special about humans. But there, of course, as you're immediately thinking, there are exceptions. I'll tell you about it. One exception I talked to one time. I talked to this guy on a train. I tell the story sometimes on stage where I was on this train. He sits across from me. We're at I love trains because there's like this restaurant booth table like in front of me. I've got my laptop out. It's so much better than like planes where like I've got like not enough space to do like anything except breathe. And so I'm working on my laptop and this guy sits across from me and we start talking. And eventually he asked me about what I do. And I just come from an outreach at Pasadena City College where I'd spent a couple of days talking to pro-choice people. So I kind of told him just like a 2-minute summary of what I'd been doing. And in that 2-minute summary toward the end, I said, I've noticed something recently. I talk to all kinds of people. I talk to Christians and atheists and Buddhists and Mormons and, all these different types of people. And almost everyone that I talk to agrees that there's something special about humans. And he said, oh, no, my girlfriend would disagree with that. And I was like, really? Like, are you sure? That kind of thing. And he's like, yeah, I'll prove it to you. If she ever accidentally kills a bug, she has a moment of silence. And I thought about that. I was like, I thought about that for a minute. I was like, wow. I don't think that your girlfriend thinks that they're the same. And I'll prove it to you. If she ever accidentally ran over a kid, she wouldn't just have a moment of silence, right? Like, it would at least wreck her day. Like, she wouldn't just get out of the car and be like, namaste and move on. Like, it's going to be an event in her life, you know? Sure. And I know this is a California stereotype, but I swear he said, dude. He starts thinking. He starts nodding his head. He's like, I think you're right. I'm going to go talk to her about that today. I'm sure they had this amazing conversation. Anyway.
And now they're broke up.
He was available on Tinder.
Easily on the couch at least. Minimum. Right. He was on the couch that night. So it is valuable, I think, to talk about animals and try to start getting people thinking about their intuitions. I think there's a lot of value to that.
How do you move people from the thought of it's just an embryo, it's a cluster of cells, it's not the potential, to hey, this is actually a human?
Yeah.
Do we erase the terminology? Fetus?
That's a good question.
Clump?
That's a really good question. And
because you never hear clump of dog cells,
right?
Or or a clump of cells. Like honestly, hey, I mean, if you go on the Facebook marketplace and they're like, or whatever, puppyfinder.com, they're like, oh, here's Molly or Molly and Kyle the Rottweiler, and they're having babies or puppies. They never, they never deep dogatize the the puppies as a clump of cells. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And I hate to cut you off. I'm just saying.
No, this is good because you're asking me about a thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately. Like I had thoughts, and then in the last couple of months, I've been rethinking all of my thoughts and trying to figure out, am I changing my mind or am I just like nuancing my views? So in fact, I literally just while you're talking, I think I came up with a new distinction. So let me try to like process this out loud. So I get more hate mail from pro-lifers than pro-choice people. Okay, this is a part of my life.
That's when you know you're doing it right.
Is that the pro-lifers that hold a bullhorn and the
a lot of those do not like me very much at all. So
don't worry, I don't like them either.
One of the many reasons I like some of them. I've got some really good friends that have the aborted fetus signs, but some of them also really don't like me. So one of the reasons why pro-lifers sometimes don't like me very much is because I am less nitpicky typically about, or I'm less like hardcore on pro-lifers need to always say baby and child, and we should never say fetus, and like we got to be like really careful about the words, because in my experience, if we're having a one-on-one dialogue, don't think of like a debate, think of like a one-on-one dialogue. I'm trying to use neutral terms, especially in the beginning of the conversation, because my actual goal here is I want to make the person feel emotionally safe, and so that we can focus on the two issues that matter. I don't want to argue about the terms. I want to talk about, is the unborn a human person like you and me? And does a woman's right to her own bodily autonomy trump those rights? Those are like the two big issues. Okay. That's what I want to be talking about. I do not want to be arguing about, are we calling it a zygote or an embryo or a fetus or a product of conception or a clump of cells, like all these different things. So that's been kind of my take, and some pro-lifers get mad at me for that.
But you would not use that. For example, if you took the opposing view of, for example, Pride Month, right now we're in the middle of the month of Gay Pride, or, LGBTQ, LMNOP Pride Month, or, any type of racial group, you would not use disparaging terms that have been used historically to make your argument or counter argument. I mean,
there are some who do, but they're not very persuasive, right? They're on the fringe ends, and they shouldn't be using those terms, they're relegated to the dark corners of the internet community, right, where they ought to be,
or their mother's basement.
So I think there is a segment on both ends of the spectrum of words and phrases that are so rhetorically charged and just meant to get a rhetorical advantage that they should be kind of off limits. So on the pro-choice side, there would be things like clump of cells, product of conception. Recently, I don't even remember what the phrase, I need to memorize this, but there's this been ridiculous phrase that pro-choice people have been trying to replace with heartbeat. They don't want to use heartbeat. They want to call it's like an electrical stimulus of like cardiac muscle or something like that. It's something that's like, look, you're trying too hard. Okay. This is like really obvious what you're doing. So like there's those on that end. This is like, Really? And then on the pro-life side, I think like there's really rhetorically charged terminology like murdering a helpless baby or torturing a child to death or like things like that.
All right.
So let's all try to go toward the middle a bit, right? And use fairly neutral terms so that we can focus on what we're actually supposed to be arguing about. And what I'm working on right now is trying to figure out at what points should you actually call them out if they're in that extreme end where they're using really dumb terms. And I tend to like if things like anti-choice is such an obnoxious phrase. No one's anti-choice. So like if you want to call me anti-abortion, okay, or like whatever, but like anti-choice, no one's anti-choice. Just like I don't call them pro-aborts, which is short for pro-abortion. Like almost no one is pro-abortion. Okay, now there's more
Pro-murder.
now than there used to be. No, see that's even worse.
Yeah.
So like because murder comes in with the connotation of someone who has malice aforethought. Like they want to kill this person and they do it and they know what they're doing, which doesn't describe women who have abortions. It's killing, but
Well,
it's not
hold
murder.
on. A murder is the shedding of innocent blood. That's the typical classical definition of it.
Not the legal definition. I mean, the legal definition is an illegal killing of one human to another human, which means abortion.
Yeah,
not.
but hold on. That kind of carries a double standard in America because we also have states that are for pro-choice, heavily pro-choice, also have the standard of double murder if a woman who is pregnant is killed.
Yes.
So I'm talking about the Webster's definition, which most of us, I mean, because, out of 330 million people in America, most of us don't have a law degree. Now, I have a Wikipedia law degree, but that's a little different.
So this is something I've had to talk to lawyers about because I also don't have a law degree, and so I'm talking to lawyers and trying to like figure out like how to use the terms and what's going on in the Lacey Peterson law, which you described, where there's like you can do a double murder charge on someone like Scott Peterson, who killed both Lacey and Connor, her unborn son, is that it is not actually legal in America to kill an unborn child against the mother's wishes. That's not legal. It's not like they have no status. If the mother wants an abortion, she's allowed to have an abortion under this right to privacy idea. And so it's not like what he's doing, not like morally, it's the same kid.
Right.
Like you and I are on the same page.
Right.
But it's not like as soon as Roe v. Wade happens, that means that any husband or boyfriend can go stabbing women in the stomach and killing their baby. Like that doesn't come like in with Roe v. Wade. Right?
I get that.
Marty, do you have the definition of murder?
Actually, I do. I just looked it up.
Okay.
Let me go back to it because I closed out of that screen. Legal definition of murder. At common law, murder was defined as killing another human being with malice aforethought. Malice aforethought is a legal term of art that encompasses the following types of murder: intent to kill, grievous bodily harm murder, killing someone in an attack intended to cause them bodily harm.
Right.
Also, if you're playing along at home, murder is a hobby that kills time along with its victims in the process. That's from Urban Dictionary.
You went to the wrong dictionary, JT.
My bad. That's
You murdered my ears with that definition.
I think sometimes where some people will get caught up with malice or maliciousness or malicious intent is that people actually derive enjoyment out of it. I'm not saying
it's not enjoyment exactly. It's just like if I got really mad at someone and me mad at them meant I wanted to kill them.
Their personal needs superseded the other person's needs.
Right. But like it does, like if I kill them, it doesn't mean I'm enjoying it. But it does mean that I had this intent to kill out of anger. It was, it's a first degree thing. Like I planned it and I carried it out. I might have been feeling really sad while doing it. But what I'm saying is that that's what most people think of when they hear murder as opposed to just killing. And I do not think that most women who have abortions are experiencing like this malice aforethought thing. I don't think that's what's going on.
I don't think in their mind they have rationalized that they're committing murder.
And that's why I don't use the word murder.
And I'm not saying I would. If I'm trying to change someone's mind, I'm not going to go like, you murderer, and you need to wear the scarlet letter M. I mean, I would never do that. But
so you're taking us to a deeper level. This is good. So let me do one of our practical dialogue tips. I'm going to rephrase what I hear you saying as like an interesting counter argument and see if I got it right before I counter.
Sure.
I hear you saying, okay, Josh, I'm with you. If I'm talking to a pro-choice person, of course, I'm not going to use the word murder. That would be super unpersuasive. But like, while us pro-lifers are talking, can't we use like the words that like it ought to be considered murder. So we ought to use words like this. Would that be like a fair reflection of what's going on inside of you, or did I miss anything? This is okay. This is okay. This is what we call a thinking pause. And it's so easy to interrupt it because we get uncomfortable. This is one of the most important moments in a dialogue.
Just be quiet.
That's right.
Well, I mean, I think
My bad.
I mean, just because we know each other, I enjoy precise language.
Yeah.
Okay. And that comes from a philosophy book I read with being very intentional with your language. I believe that we should use correct terminology. I don't think I mean, if I'm trying, it depends on the individual. Now, if I'm talking to someone who I know that, using key terms that may not move the argument or move the talk along, then obviously curtail your language a bit.
Right.
But for the intent of this conversation, I believe, words like murder, is a great word to just discuss that, because if I was to take this solo cup and carve the hole out of it and wind it up into a rod and thrust it into Biggin's temple, that would be murder. Yeah. I mean, I would not want to soft coat that to something else. It would literally be me having the intent to rob him of his life. So I
agree with that. I just think it's like not very analogous to abortion.
Murder?
Like what you just described about doing with the cup.
No. I'm just saying that I believe in terminology that, for example, I believe for example, I've heard the argument, the extreme argument of pro-choice that babies are parasites.
Right.
Okay.
Which is I think that falls in that spectrum of where like that is so dehumanizing.
Exactly.
It's like flag on the field.
Right. But also
let's talk about that.
But also I would not, for example, I would not stand in front of a Planned Parenthood clinic and be like, "Oh, you're murdering your kid."
Sure. I totally get that. I totally get that.
But I believe, but me philosophically and politically, I believe that you're snuffing out the individual property right of someone that is unborn. I believe in individual property rights. I believe that once that clump of cells is formed, I believe they have an individual property right.
Human organism.
Exactly. I believe in the non-aggression principle.
Sure.
And I believe that the mother organism, I can't talk, organism is actually then violating the individual property rights of the one that's inside in utero.
Yeah. So here's the common ground is like, I think abortion ought to be considered murder in the sense of, I think it should be against the law. It'd be easier to call abortion murder if it was actually against the law, because in American law, we say like whether it is an illegal killing is actually a necessary condition of it being defined as murder. I think what I've heard a lot of people say, and I think there's something fair to this, is like, but from God's eyes, it's murder. I think there's something to that. I just don't know whether that's useful in my conversations with pro-choice people. And so I'm just calling it killing.
You're not going to change anybody's mind with that.
Right.
Yep.
I think, I mean, we're now in a shift in this country where, 20 years ago, you'd probably have 78 to 85% of Americans would say like they were some Judeo-Christian persuasion.
Yeah.
I think the most recent statistics were below 55%. Identified as some type of Judeo-Christian belief in this country. So we're now trending
more secular.
Yep. And I think that the God argument does not hold water.
Yeah.
So we have to almost change tactics to a philosophical argument.
Totally agree with that.
Just like me, I take a radical approach. I believe all life has a purpose.
How dare you?
I know, right? And I mean, as tough as it is to say, as a person who was a victim of child abuse or sexual child abuse by a non-family member, even people like that have a purpose. Now, I'm not saying they deserve to breathe air outside of four walls of a prison.
Sure.
But it is not my right to take their life. It is not my right. It is not the right of a state to be authorized to murder. I don't agree with that. And my views have been very fluid over the past few years on that, because that's a very touchy subject for me, because it's so personal.
Yeah.
But I don't, when the forefathers, we always talk about the forefathers. When the forefathers set up this government, I think really they wanted a government so small but they wanted the government to do one thing, and that was protect the individual, to offer some type of security. And I believe that's what the government's role is in this whole abortion debate, is to at least protect the life of the individual, but also the unborn also.
Well, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear that happened to you. That's news to me. But
it's life.
I think it's awesome that you're at the point where you can talk about that a little bit openly, because I think it's going to help other sexual assault survivors to feel like they can step up and talk about it too. So I think it's awesome that you're able to do that. But I'm sad to hear that happened. What's interesting is that I am in this place of like we're arguing about a pretty nitpicky term here. We have like almost all common ground, right? But I have been feeling more of a pull toward like more toward your side of the room. And the thing that's causing,
as in what? Define that.
What I mean, being a little bit more. Being a little bit less neutral with terms and arguments. And what I mean by that, like a lot of, I think like my, like something like my brand or image in the pro-life movement is something like this really nice pro-life guy, something like that, right?
Right.
And I'm and not really into debate, very much into dialogue, like to the point that that's why some pro-lifers don't like me. They're like, I think for them it's like, man, this guy just wants to like hang out under a tree with pro-choice people and smoke pot with them all day, like that kind of a thing, right?
I actually like that,
right? And you would totally do that. So what I'm saying is like I've got that, like I think sometimes that perception, but I feel a pull toward being in this moment of time a little bit more debatey and less neutral with my words, because like just the memes and the arguments on pro-choice social media right now are so insane. They're so dishonest. Like there's all these memes about how like Georgia and Alabama, like all these different states, want to literally execute women for abortions. That's definitively not true. Like 7 out of 8 of these states explicitly said in the bills they would only ever want to go after the doctor who's doing the abortions, never the woman. The only exception, there was one state that didn't make this explicit in the bill, which was Georgia. Georgia did not explicitly say it. They should have. There's other case law. Even Snopes says that they wouldn't execute women for abortions, but they made it less obvious. All the other states, Alabama, all these other states made it super, super clear. But you've still got all these memes are like, they want to, it's Handmaid's Tale. We're going to be, hanging women for abortions. It's like, that's not true. And there's so much disinformation right now. It's making me like feel like maybe like this is a moment where we just kind of need to throw down and at least like debunk the myths.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about setting a table up like Steven Crowder does?
I have.
I think it would be very effective.
It's so frustrating because we've thought about that for years before Crowder did that. And the reason we haven't, I actually did this once. Something kind of like it once, where I had a long dialogue with a person on campus while it was being filmed. There was a camera guy there videoing the whole thing. But for the most part, we don't do that, even though like we have little like GoPros and stuff for safety, because we've had a couple of kind of intense things happen on campus. Like, but we don't like film during the dialogues. We don't even want to show people that we've got cameras. And the reason for that is because typically, as soon as you're recording something, it changes the thing. It's like that scientific law. As soon as you observe it, you're changing it, kind of thing. Like the dialogue we're having right now is pretty real. This is like, you and I have been in your kitchen before, and I feel like we would kind of have this conversation. But even still, you and I both know this is being recorded, and who knows how many people are going to hear it, and that is affecting us a little bit, right? And so even more so if it's me debating someone, like suddenly everyone's super on guard, wanting to be really precise, wanting to not lose any ground, and it's just harder to have a good conversation that way. So my thing has always been, look, let's just have real dialogues. We can tell the stories later. Let's take really good notes. Let's try to figure out what was going on, that we did well, that we did not well, and figure that out. And then Steven Crowder starts doing this change your mind thing and doing it, I'm sorry, not that well. Like, he's a nice guy. He's a good comedian, but it's not how I train people to dialogue. And so it's like a little bit frustrating, just because like, hey, now hundreds of thousands of people are seeing not a great example of how to do this. It's kind of like, and the same thing has happened with Ben Shapiro. Like, I like Ben Shapiro. I've listened to his podcast quite a bit. I have a lot of similar views to him. But then there'll be these videos that go viral. They'll be like, Ben Shapiro destroys, in all caps.
Oh, yeah.
This pro-choice person, or probably this pro-abort or whatever, whoever is titling their YouTube videos does.
The funny thing is, he's not responsible for those. Any of the destroyed videos, his group doesn't make those.
No, Daily Wire does put out some of those videos.
Okay,
it's one of his staff people. That thing that he said on that recent BBC thing, I don't think that holds water. Not technically Ben Shapiro doing it, but one of his, he's paying someone who's doing that, so it is kind of on him. But I have a lot of common ground with him. But then there'll be like a bad example of how to dialogue with people. And so something I'm thinking about doing, I haven't made a final decision about whether or not I'm going to do it, but I feel a lot of pull to do it. Is ever watch those like response videos online where you've got like a lawyer or, you know, a doctor or someone watching clips of a TV show or a movie? It's kind of like reacting to it. And I did that with Reverse and Road. That's what that series was kind of me reacting to clips of the show. I'm thinking about basically doing that with recorded dialogues like with Steven Crowder's, which changed my mind, and basically watch the thing totally unscripted, just a camera on me. I'm watching this thing, and then just sometimes pause and say, okay, here's what I really like about what Steven Crowder just did. See how he just found this common ground? Note that. That was really good. But then also point, okay, this is not an argument I'd be making. I'd be making a different argument because C actually said this other thing. He's hearing her say X. C actually said Y. You can roll the tape. And kind of just using that as like a really good example where like we can kind of, you know, put this thing up and say, all right, let's analyze this. I don't know if I ought to do it because I don't know if it's like a good idea to be on Steven Crowder's bad side or whatever, but it's something that I know a lot of people have asked me to do, and I probably am going to end up doing it.
We're going to do the same thing, except we're going to do that when you're watching The Lion King.
Do we still got to do that?
I will so live tweet that.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
There's a whole list. I mean,
how do you feel about doing the action?
I've never seen the original Lion King.
Yeah.
The original?
Yeah.
I've never seen
the cartoon. He hasn't seen it yet.
Hold on. Wow. I've never seen original Aladdin.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Never seen original Lion King. I've seen 3/4 of Milan.
I haven't seen it.
Beauty and the Beast. Never have seen even a minute of that.
Really?
And you have a daughter. What's wrong with you?
Little Mermaid? You seen Little Mermaid?
No. I've never seen it.
You have a daughter and you haven't seen Little Mermaid?
Look, I grew up in a staunch Pentecostal household, and these movies were of the devil.
Were they were anti-Disney movies when you were growing up?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What did they watch? Did they watch anything?
We watched Mr.
It's a
Roger,
Wonderful Life?
Mr. Roger. We watched
Griffith.
PBS.
A lot of Andy Griffith.
I did watch a lot of Andy Griffith, yeah.
Wow.
I couldn't watch Disney movies, but I could watch Days of Our Lives.
Really?
Yeah, how about that?
That's twisted.
Grandma ain't gonna miss her stories.
No.
I think you should watch Lion King. It's art.
But
This is a great
we're going to do
You
that.
do it?
We're going to do it, but we're going to live tweet it.
That's awesome.
My response. Because I'm a crier. I will straight up
we'll
cry on Twitter.
At the end.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. Man, you got so much like just film education to do with this guy.
Sure.
That'll be fun.
I'm going to laugh a minute.
Yeah. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
man.
thanks for having me. This was fun. We should do this more often.
Yeah, imagine that. We might even be in the same studio pretty soon.
Yeah, I think kind of maybe we're going to be working in this studio, which is going to be pretty cool.
I'm excited about it.
I am too.
All right. Well, again, thanks for coming on. And where can people find all your information?
Just if you Google Equal Rights Institute, if you look it up on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or just our website, we've got an awesome blog. We've got an online course already on apologetics and dialogue tips that people, if you want a really systematic, quick, like what are the best arguments we know, we've put all that in an online course.
Oh, nice.
We're wrapping up the second online course on sidewalk counseling. But yeah, just if you go to equalrightsinstitute.com, you can click on, there's like right there at the top, there's like a, stay informed button. You can get on our email list. We send an email about once a week or so with just our latest article or podcast or YouTube videos, like something to try to help you, or maybe like a local event announcement or something like that. So just follow us. We are really helpful. And thanks for having me. And Brandon, thanks for having some back and forth with me. This was really fun.
I love it. Maybe next time we can do a little longer.
Let's do it.
And people can also donate to.
They can. It's a nonprofit, and we would love love some donations to help pay for the studio that we're making right now.
Sure.
That would be really helpful.
Your studio travels.
Studio travels. It's an expensive thing that we, especially our staff has expanded. We've got 5 staff now.
Oh, wow.
And so that means that we need office space and just like there's just costs that come with that.
Yeah.
But they're awesome. It's some of the smartest pro-lifers in the country, and I've gathered them all into one team so they can just be awesome together.
It's like the pro-life Avengers.
It is. That's exactly what it is. We're totally pro-life Avengers.
I was going to go Super Friends.
Oh, I did like the Super Friends.
I do too.
So
Another
nice.
show he wasn't allowed to watch growing up.
That's a show that I've not seen.
And watch that.
I haven't seen Super
You haven't
Friends.
seen Super Friends?
I know, right? But you haven't seen Lion King, so I don't think you can say anything.
Yeah, but Super Friends was awesome.
What is
Saturday
Super
mornings.
Friends?
It's like Aquaman.
Justice League.
Aquaman
Justice
sucks,
League.
though.
Hold on.
Did you see the new movie, The Aquaman? Did you like that?
I've not seen the new
My
Aquaman.
wife loved it.
Of course you haven't.
Of course you did. Jason Momoa flexing his muscles.
My wife loved Jason Momoa.
That, even as a dude, I can say that is a good-looking man. That
Right.
If he's in it, I can watch it. It's pretty much it.
Nice. Well, Josh, again, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
Once again, we appreciate you guys listening to the Southern Fried Philosophy podcast. You can go to our website at southernfriedphilosophy.com. Our Facebook page is Southern Fried Philosophy. Our favorite way that you can hook up with us at iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Maybe we might even have a Tinder profile.
Oh,
I don't
Lord.
know.
That's all we need. Biscuits and gravy, baby.
Anyway, go subscribe, give us a like, give us a review, share those favorite episodes with your friends and family. We really appreciate that. We really appreciate all the new listeners we've been getting, especially over in Scotland. We've been communicating with a guy, John Harris, I believe.
How about it, John?
Anyway, I'm planning right now. I am planning the Scotch whiskey tour for 2021.
There we go. We're going to do it, baby.
We're doing it.
We are.
I think so. Anyway, once again, shout out to my donor's mother, Lisa, down in Georgia. We appreciate you. Donate Life, hashtag Donate Life. You can find out anyway how to sign up on your local organ registration. I am here today because of a grateful donation for a heart that I received in 2016. So as a tribute to my donor, Jamie, and also my donor's mother, Lisa, please, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you sign up for your organ donation through your license or state or anyway your local chapter also. Anyway, I think that's about it.
Yeah. And as always, keep looking up.